Can I copy Windows 10 system files to another drive? This question has been around pretty much as long as Windows itself has been. In years past, and I mean many years past, it actually was almost possible to do exactly that. You could simply copy the contents of one drive to another, run a little utility to get the boot record right, and you'd have a clone of your system. That is so not the case anymore with recent versions of Windows. I'll say and by recent, I mean like within the last 15 or 20 years worth of Windows. Getting Windows onto another hard disk is actually a fairly complicated process, at least internally. It can be fairly simple, just not this simple for you. Can I copy Windows 10 system files to another drive? Copying, moving, and licensing Windows 10 isn't nearly as simple as we might like. I'm Leo Notenboom. This is AskLeo.com. Question: can I copy Windows 10 system files to another drive and boot from it, assuming all other computer components are original to the first drive? I want to keep my Windows 10 license. Taking your question literally, the answer is no. You cannot simply copy Windows, or pretty much any installed operating system, from one drive to another, or one machine to another, and have it work. Windows is too complex. However, if what you're really trying to do is, say, replace a hard disk or move your Windows installation to a different machine, the answers get more complex, and in some cases, more promising. Summary: you can't simply copy Windows from one hard disk to another. You may be able to copy an image of the hard disk to another. A reinstallation of Windows is typically required for all other scenarios. Whether your license will transfer depends on differences in hardware. Copying doesn't work. I'm assuming from your question that you literally want to copy the files you find on your hard disk to another hard disk. For example, you might click on the C drive in Windows File Explorer and then drag and drop that to another hard disk on the same machine. While that approach will copy a lot of files, it won't copy everything. It'll miss things like the bootloader required to load Windows at start time, files the system is currently using, files that have been intentionally hidden by the Windows installation, probably more things that I can't think of. Even if it did copy everything, placing the operating system on a drive requires an installation or setup program. As we'll see below, that process doesn't copy an existing installation, but is designed to install and set up everything the operating system requires to run. It's a lot more than just copying the files. Imaging might work. There is one scenario where a form of copying will work. It's an important scenario for disaster recovery, hard disk replacement. Rather than copying files from one hard disk to another, imaging or cloning a hard drive operates at a much lower level. It copies absolutely everything that's on a hard disk, making no changes as it does so. The net result is that you can indeed copy one hard disk to another and then have that replacement hard drive take the place of the original. For example, you create a nightly backup image of your hard drive. Your hard drive dies. You replace your hard drive. You restore the most recent backup image to the replacement hard drive. Life goes on. The biggest caveat to this scenario is that the only thing that's changed is the hard drive, nothing else. We've not moved the operating system to another drive, say from C to D. We've simply replaced the hard drive that is C and put the data back on it. All else requires installation. As I mentioned above, Windows is a very complex operating system, and installing it is an intricate process that involves more than just copying a few files. Things like hardware selection, registry values, and configuration options are determined and written during the installation based on the characteristics of the machine at that time. Even if you were able to move the operating system to a different drive with a simple copy, say a second drive that you expected to dual boot from, that move will invalidate many of the options that were originally determined at setup time. Sometimes Windows will recover some of the information as it notices something's changed, but often it will not. The right solution to moving Windows from one drive to another or from one machine to another is to reinstall it from scratch. That's the safest approach with the most stable result. Licensing complexities. Windows 10 licensing further complicates things. When Windows 10 is installed, it's issued a digital license for the machine on which it was installed. In theory, then, that copy of Windows cannot legally be moved to another machine. Chances are if you move a hard drive, copy an image, or even use one of the utilities that offers to move Windows from one machine to another, the result will be an unactivated Windows installation. You will likely need to provide a new key to license that copy of Windows to the new machine. Even on the same machine, things can get dicey. Hardware, like the hard drive, can be replaced or upgraded. But like the ship of Theseus, how much hardware you can replace and still have Microsoft's licensing monitor consider it the same machine? Eventually, something will fail the test, and Microsoft will consider the machine changed enough that Windows will consider the machine to need a new license. The interesting thing about digital licensing model is that once you've installed Windows 10 onto a machine, you can then reinstall it on the same machine without needing to re-enter your key. The licensing monitor recognizes it's the same machine on which Windows 10 had previously been installed and activated. To bring this all back to the original question, even if you were able to copy Windows 10 to a second drive on the same machine without replacing the original drive, and even if you were then able to boot from it, I expect Windows would consider it a different machine and require a new license. Ultimately, you'd have two copies of Windows 10 on two different drives on the same machine at the same time, which would imply a need for two licenses. For links related to this article or to leave a comment, visit askleo.com/67844. I'm Leo Notenboom. This is AskLeo.com. Thanks for watching.